All right, guys. Hey, guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. Yeah, I don't really have to. I don't have a lot of time, man. I'm here at school currently, but I wanted to do a short little video saying rest in peace to the master and the ruler of the world, aka Sid Vicious, aka Sid Justice, aka Psycho Sid. Um, yeah, Sid just passed away from cancer. Just today. I found this news out and I'm devastated, as many of you are that grew up wrestling fans in the 1990s. Yeah, Sid, of course, he started off in the Memphis territory, Jerry Jarrett's territory, like so many other professional wrestlers. He's originally from Arkansas, so that was his home territory. And he started off, in the late 1980s, like the mid to late 1980s. Because of his size, he quickly transcended that and broke into the ranks in Jim Crockett Promotions. At that time, it was called it was WCW, just transitioning to WCW as part of the Skyscrapers with Danny Spivey. That was like in 1989. It wasn't long after that in 1990 he became a member of the Four Horsemen, and he had a cage match at Wrestle War 91 where he almost broke Brian Pillman's neck. And then they picked him up in WWE in 1992. Where he skyrocketed to the main event. Late 1991, he left the WCW to go to WWE. They did the storyline with him at SummerSlam, where he was the referee. Pardon the noise, guys. Where he was the referee for the main event. That year was the handicap match, the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan versus the Triangle of Terror. He became a babyface with Hogan, then he left the Hogan team in late 1992. He main evented WrestleMania 8 with Hogan. And then he went back to WCW where he, was the master of the Powerbombs tag team all throughout 1993 with the Invader. Beach Blast 93, they took on Sting and the British Bulldog, and the Cheatham, the midget match and shit, And then in late 1993, he got into the altercation with Arn Anderson, where he apparently stabbed Arn Anderson with a pair of scissors. It all started because they were on a tour in Europe. And he called Arn Anderson old, and he said the Four Horsemen were old and played out, and that resulted in an altercation. There was a squeegee incident with he and Brian Pillman in the early 90s. So Sid was basically in and out of both companies. In 1995, he came back as Shawn Michaels' bodyguard. We did a lot of Sid content already because we talked about his whole era. We talked about 1989, him and the Skyscrapers. We talked about 1990, him and the Four Horsemen. We talked about the Arn Anderson incident. We talked about him winning the WWF Championship against Shawn Michaels at the end of '96. They brought him back after they fired the Ultimate Warrior for the last and final time in 1996. They brought Sid back as his replacement in a six-man tag team match. Cam Cornette versus Shawn Michaels, Ahmed Johnson, and Sid. International incident in July of '96. So we talked a lot about that. We talked about his match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 13, where apparently he shit his pants. Supposedly, his last title run is that was the last time he was ever in WWE. We didn't talk about yet his return to WCW as the Millennium Man. They set up a feud with he and Goldberg, and he wrestled Goldberg twice. I think Halloween Havoc 1990 and Starrcade Halloween Havoc 1999 and Starrcade 1999. And then he had the incident, the last pay-per-view, the last pay-per-view of WCW Sin. He was in a match with Scott Steiner because that was the feud going into 2001, because that was the feud that ended 2000. He reinvented the last Starrcade, him and Scott Steiner. So he was feuding with the Magnificent Seven, Scott Steiner's faction, and Johnny Ace told him to try something different. He tries a leg drop off the top rope. He splits his ankle in half, breaks his ankle, like the most famous shoot incident in modern day professional wrestling happened with Sid at the Sin pay-per-view in 2001. So the last WCW pay-per-view. So it was basically Sid that closed out WCW as far in terms of pay-per-view. And then he came back in 2012, I believe it was, on Raw and powerbombed Heath Slater. He pretty much healed from that incident. Like, it was amazing because like people didn't think he would be able to even walk again. Sid was an amazing specimen. When I first saw Sid at Halloween Havoc 1990 when he wrestled Sting, I was shocked by how big and massive he was. Anyway, rest in peace, Big Sid. To me, he was like the unofficial, like, 7th member of the Clique. Like, Justin Credible was the 6th member, but he was the 7th member. And he was just amazing. I loved him as a wrestler. You know, this is a real bummer to happen on my birthday, man. Peace, Sid. Love you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see when my next video is coming out.